Bye.
Bye.
All right. Today we are starting Ruth chapter 4. So we will have this. We're covering the first 12 verses today. Then we are going to cover through verse 17 next week. And then the week after that, we will finish up the chapter. So we've got a couple more weeks left of Ruth. And so we will see how this story pans out. So we're going to start with the first 12 verses of chapter 4. And they say, Now Boaz had gone up to the gate and sat down there. And behold, the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, Turn aside, friend, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit down here. So they sat down. Then he said to the Redeemer, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. So I thought I would tell you of it and say, Buy it in the presence of those sitting here, and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not, tell me, that I may know, for there is no one besides you to redeem it, and I come after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, The day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. Then the Redeemer said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this is the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm a transaction, the one drew off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was the manner of attesting in Israel. So when the Redeemer said to Boaz, Buy it for yourself, he drew off his sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, You are witnesses this day that I have bought the land of Naomi and all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. Also, Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, I have brought to be my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brothers and from the gate of his native place. You are witnesses this day. Then all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together build up the house of Israel. May you act worthily in Ephrathah and be renowned in Bethlehem. And may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring that the Lord will give you by this young woman. So we see a lot going on here. And I couldn't help but to think of the days when I was at the bank. And even the days when we bought our house. And we'll get into that a little bit later about how the difference from then to now. But in these 12 verses, basically you just see a conversation. You see a contract that is taking place between these two people. And when we left off last week, we left with Naomi telling Ruth that the matter will be resolved tomorrow. So we are now at tomorrow. And so she was right. It is the morning and Boaz is at the city gates. Boaz wasted no time. So Naomi was 100% correct when she told Ruth, one way or the other, it's going to be resolved tomorrow. Boaz, first thing in the morning, he gets up, he goes to the city gates. So we see he did keep his word. When he sent Ruth on his way last week, or on her way, we didn't know if he was going to keep his word or not, and he did. And as soon as he gets up, he goes to the gates, and he waits on the other Redeemer. He could have waited. He told Ruth that he would have it done tomorrow, but things come up. And how many times in our life do we say, oh, well, I'm going to do this tomorrow. And we have the whole day planned out. We're going to get this done. Then we've got time to do this. Then if I have extra time, we might get this done. And then it all falls apart. Because you wake up and there's somebody doesn't feel good. Or the doctor called and they've had to move your appointment. Or they move your appointment up to a different day. Or you get another call and somebody needs your help, or you get called into work on your day off. We know our schedule changes greatly. Same as with Boaz. Things come up in his life as well, but he kept his promise. He made it there. He went first thing in the morning, and he did not delay. And the reason he was at the city gate is because he knew this other Redeemer, this other man, would be passing through the gate on his way to get to work. So he knew of this man. He knew what he looked like. We are never told this guy's name. But he knew who he was looking for. And he also knew, hey, this is the perfect time to catch him. He's coming into the city. Typically I think of, Matt always gets on me because I'm always early. I like to be early. I don't like arriving right on time. I don't like being late. So I'm always 5 to 10 minutes early. I'm happy. 15 minutes early, you're on my good side. We're good. So I keep thinking of this. Boaz knows that he's got a little bit of time. He knows where to meet this guy. But there's another reason that they met at the city gate. Yes, that's where everybody enters the city, but that's where everybody gathers. It reminds me of all the older men that get together. I thought of Matt's grandfather when I did this, because every morning at 4 o'clock he gets up and he goes to what they call the minnow bucket. And he'll sit there and his group of friends get together and they talk, and I guess they drink coffee. I really don't know what they do. I'm sleeping at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't get up. But that's what this reminds me of. And we know people today, sometimes our husbands, maybe our own husbands, or we knew that our dads or our grandparents, they would always get together, whether it be at a restaurant, whether it be at a coffee shop, a gas station, somewhere they would get together and talk. Well, that's exactly what's happening at the city gate at this time. You have everybody you could want, but most importantly, you have your important people there. You have your officials, your judges, the rulers, anybody of importance you have at this gate. And so that's another common meeting place, because like we will see, Boaz needs witnesses. And what better place to have witnesses is at the city gates, where everybody's there drinking their morning coffee, getting their breakfast, catching up on the day, getting ready to go start their work day. And so the city gate was a very, very busy place. So not only was Boaz waiting to meet this guy, he knew he would have his witnesses there that he would need. So we see in verse 1 that he asked, the other guy does show up, the other redeemer, and he asked him to come and sit down. And of course the guy says yes. And the first thing I thought of is, okay, I'm on my way to work. Someone's stopping and asking me to sit down. Do I really have time? And that's just Paula reading into this. That's putting it in Paula's terms today. This is not so. And again, we know God's hand is all over it, because, you know, what if the guy, like we just talked about, what if the guy was sick that day? What if the guy didn't work that day? But it all happens. So the guy sits down. He says, of course, and he sits down. And Boaz then decides, okay, well, he's taking me up on sitting down and talking. I need my witnesses here. And don't we do the same thing today? We all know why. It's the same thing today. Everything you do that's significant in your life, a major event, you have a witness. And the things I thought of was a marriage. Whether you have a big wedding with tons of people there witnessing, or whether you go to the courthouse, you have to have a witness. Somebody is marrying you. When you sign any type of paperwork, again, I'm going back to my banking days. I was the witness to several people signing. Everybody, all the workers at the bank, depending on what it was, you had to have a witness. I could go on and on. We all know for things that are important, you have to have a witness. And so this is not unusual. And it also reminded me of the first verse that popped in my mind is the verse in the Bible that says, but it's talking about something totally different. Boaz doesn't have a problem with this guy. But the verse that says, if you have a problem with someone, take you 2-3 witnesses with you. Take somebody with you when you confront this person. So Boaz is following that law. He has his witnesses, not knowing if this guy is going to accept or reject his offer, but he has witnesses regardless. So there is no going back on each other's word. Then we see in verse 3, Boaz sits down. He tells this guy that Naomi is selling Elimelech's land. Boaz tells the guy, you need to buy it. Go buy it. You need to take this land. The guy says, yeah, I'll buy it. No problem. Sure. Thanks for telling me about it. Then Boaz says, there's that famous but. Okay, there's always a but. Then Boaz says, if you buy this land, Ruth comes with it. Okay, so you can have this land, but there's a little bit extra. There's a little baggage with it. You've got to have Ruth. And then this is when we see the guy change his tune. And he's like, whoa, I can't do that. I want the land, I'll take the land, but I can't have Ruth. And Boaz tells him, well, you get one, or you get it all, or you get nothing. You can't have the land without Ruth, and you can't have Ruth without the land. So it's either you take it all or you don't. And the guy says, I cannot take it. It's going to cause me to lose my inheritance. And the reason he's saying this is if Ruth and him were to get married, which he's buying her, so obviously when he bought her, she would become his wife. And if they had a boy, that inheritance, his inheritance that he has, would go to the son, not to him. And he doesn't want to lose all that he has. So now we have the game changer. What is this guy going to do? He really wants the land. He's already said he wants the land, but he also said he doesn't want Ruth. So we see in verse 6 that he just tells Boaz, well, if I've got to have it all, I can't have it all, I don't want it all, you just take it. And then we see in verse 7 that the Redeemer takes off his sandal and gives it to Boaz. This seals the deal. Once this was done, the land was Boaz's. And this is something that I think would be very simplistic today. I mean, could you imagine, again, I'm going to refer to the bank. When most of you all know I was a loan secretary. So when I handed you the loan, when we're signing papers, you've got papers upon papers. When we bought our house, we had papers upon papers. When you do taxes, you've got papers upon papers. You've got to sign. And the saying goes, you're signing your life away, right? There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things saying, okay, Paula agrees to this, and the bank agrees to this, and the builder agrees to this, or whatever. This was, yes, you had witnesses, but all they did was take their shoe off, and it was done. There was no paperwork. There was no sitting there for an hour trying to get all this stuff done. There wasn't going through a bank. There wasn't going through any of that, any type of loan, any type of agreement. They just took shoe off. And once they took the shoe off and handed it to the other person, it was a done deal. It's kind of like, I heard my dad say several times when he was growing up, you just shook your hand and you took the person at their word and they went on. Today, we can't do that. If you ask somebody, if you make an agreement with somebody and you just shake on it, it's up in there. It's a 50-50 chance whether they're going to come through and do what you want them to do, right? So now we all lean towards that piece of paper. And this just stuck out to me is just how, in that time it was normal, but how bizarre would it be today if someone wanted to sell us their land, they're talking to us about it, and we agree that we want the land, and I just take off my shoe and I give it to you. And that says that we want the land. Just that really stuck out to me. Just bizarre. How so much has changed. I know people have changed, but the transaction of the shoe is so that neither party could go back on his word. So Boaz can't go back and be like, well, yeah, I don't want Ruth either. I want the land, but I don't want Ruth. Well, and the other Redeemer can't come back and say, well, I really want Ruth now. I saw Ruth and I see what she is and I really want her. Once this was done, it's done. And again, you have your witnesses. And as of that moment of the exchanging of the shoe, Boaz is the owner of Elimelech's land and Ruth's hand. So we see that Boaz says that he bought this land in order that the name of the dead, Elimelech, would not be cut from among his brothers. Of course, the family name will carry on if they have children. And it says in the verse 2 that Mahlon, the son who Ruth was married to, his name would carry on. And he obviously had the same last name as Elimelech. So that's why they're referring to Elimelech's name would carry on because they're all tied together. Right now, Elimelech is dead. His sons are dead. There's no one there to carry on his name. So this is the way to get Boaz, which now that kind of makes sense. Why is Naomi pushing Ruth for Boaz? Well, we knew that they were related. And again, now her true, I guess, not feelings, but the truth comes out, I guess. Since Boaz is in their family, this is the way that she can keep her husband's name carried on. And of course, the family name will carry on then if Ruth and Boaz have children, and we will see later that they do. Then I thought this was also something very neat. The 12 verses end with the people giving Boaz their blessing. And it's just, when they sat there and they said, let me go back up to verse 12. Verse 11, all the people who are at the gate, and the elder says, we are witnesses. And then they say, may the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah. Make her a worthy woman. Let her have children. Let you all grow old together. Then towards Boaz, may you act worthily and be renowned. May you still keep up your name of being a worthy man. And may your house be like the house of Perez, who Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring the Lord will give you by this young woman. So they are giving him his blessing. And again, that part right there reminds me of a wedding. What happens at the end of the wedding? We pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. You go down, and what does everybody do? They congratulate you. They give you, your family may give you their blessing before or after. Usually that happens before. But you all get what I'm saying. Everybody is rejoicing. Everybody's upbeat. Everybody is positive. What do you do when you sign a loan? At least we did. You shook hands. Thank you, you change these thank yous. When you build a house, what do? You always say that there's always that congratulations. You see pictures all over the internet, first time homeowners and so business did this, or so real estate, or so bank. And they're acknowledging, they're blessing loosely, if you will, these people. And that's what this reminded me of. They had all these witnesses, and the witnesses were in favor of them. And that's something too. Boaz probably knew these witnesses, but they could have been they could have been strangers. He just could have gathered people at the gate knowing he needed witnesses. But we read in there that he said his elders. So I have a feeling he chose the people that he wanted to be there. And again, they were all upbeat and happy. So that's where we're going to stop this week. Next week, we're going to look at verses 13 through 16. The last week or the week after that, we will finish the study with verses 17 through 22. So next week, we're going to see what happens next. We will see if Ruth is as excited as the people were to know that she is indeed going to marry Boaz. Because right now, we see where Boaz knows that he married her. He sealed the deal. But you still have Ruth and Naomi sitting at home, and they have no clue what's going on. They're not at the city gates. Now, if it's like today's time, rumors spread pretty fast. So probably before Boaz could get back to them, they probably knew. And there's nothing insinuating this. This is just my thinking and seeing how Naomi kept pushing Ruth and kind of had all this planned out. It wouldn't surprise me if Naomi had a spy, so to speak, somewhere around there. Knowing that Boaz was going to be at the city gate, knowing that he was going to talk to this Redeemer, knowing that it was going to be tomorrow. I don't know. Like I said, nothing is said about that. That is totally 100% my speculation, but I could see that. Why would she not have someone there today? Wouldn't she? She's been so eager to know everything that has happened. Every time Ruth has went to meet Boaz, we talked about she meets her at the door, and it's like rapid fire questions of what did he say? What'd you do? How did it go? And so I could just see that. One way or the other, we're going to see next week. You all have read Ruth before. You know what happens. You know that it quickly progresses next week. And they pretty much get married. And the thing I kept thinking about here, another thing that I'm kind of thankful for we don't have today, is the whole bought thing. Every time I read the verse of, when Boaz, he's now owner of Ruth. I mean, that just, I don't know. That just strikes me odd. And of course, we know that's how it was back then. We know they bought people. We knew there was arranged marriages. We know all that. And I'm so thankful today that we don't have that we have the willingness to choose. But sometimes arranged marriages may have been better than our choosing. But just how odd that would be that you were bought to be somebody's wife. But yet this is the life that Ruth wants, or at least that Naomi wants for Ruth. And Ruth hasn't, that we know, or that we have seen, hasn't rebutted against that. She has went along with it 100%. And we still know that Ruth is young, so she may still want a family. She's past the grieving period. So I think all of this is working like it's supposed to. But it's just odd. Several things there to think about. A lot of contrast between then and now. Like we talked about the contrast in the marriages and stuff like that. And where people gather. I mean, I think about the grocery store today. Sometimes if we see people in the grocery store, we stop and talk. But I couldn't imagine entering the city of Fulton and stopping our cars right there, which they didn't have cars back then, but stopping right there and just gather every morning right there in the road and talking. But that was the normal for them. So like I said, we will find out more next week. The story quickly goes on. They just jump right into it, and we see that they're married by the time we meet next week. So I hope you all have a great week, and thank you for listening. And there's a possibility we'll completely wrap up next week, but I doubt it. I think we're just going to do the next 3 or 4 verses. So I will see you all here next week.